we're going to go through a few pieces that explore our relationship to musics and cultures of different and distant places. And we're going to start from the earliest point, which is with Alexander Glazunov, who was a Russian nationalist composer who was very influenced and studied with some of the big Russian Mighty Five, who were all Russian nationalist composers. And he writes this in the year 1886, and he calls it Oriental Reverie. Okay. Now, the fact that he calls it Oriental already tells you a bit of his perception of other cultures and other places. You know, at that time, if you said Orient, it could mean anything from like Turkey east, and includes any culture in the middle, and kind of very little differentiation between them. And really, when composers at that time were writing music of supposedly other cultures, they're not necessarily trying to actually bring the original music of those places into the concert hall, but rather they were trying to evoke something for a European audience, for what they would perceive of those different and distant cultures. So Glazunov uses some very basic tools which were very common at the time to kind of evoke that distant, almost mystical fascination with those distant cultures. So let's hear just a couple of things that he does. In the beginning, first of all, he begins with a solo clarinet, which already gives it a bit of that kind of, I guess in this case, maybe Indian whiff. And it starts with a melodic interval, which we call an augmented second, which to a Western ear always immediately sounds like some kind of Eastern music. Can we hear that? Okay, so you heard that okay, just what the augmented second sounds like. That exactly that melodic interval sounds to us very much like basically any kind of Eastern music. Composers use this to depict anything from Native Americans to Jews to Muslims to Turks to Indian, anything. Really.
Non-European.
And to be fair, it is used in many kinds of music, but it's kind of taking a tiny element out of an entire musical culture and saying that is the musical culture. So it's a bit of looking down your nose at them. Now, another thing that is very common in Eastern music is ornamentation. Back in the day when I went to the Jerusalem Academy of Music, there was a large department of classical or Arab music. And my friends would show me how they're practicing, and while we were practicing to have precision and intonation, they were practicing on there's no single moment that you move between one note and the next, and you don't ornament somehow between the two notes. There's no such thing as you could just go from one note to the next regularly like we would do in Western music. So let's hear how it's depicted here in Glazunov. So first of all, how it sounds without the ornamentation. And now with the ornamentation. Right, it completely changes the atmosphere of the melody. And last, the way he writes it for the strings is very, very unusual. We have the cello playing very high up. Can you just play the first note?
Sure.
Okay, that's our bass. That's the lowest note. And it just gives this very, very unique color. Let's just play a couple of bars so you can hear also we put on these little rubber things which are called mutes and change the color of the instrument. So we have all these different kind of evocations of what Glazunov sees as Oriental music, Oriental culture, and really there's a lot of different emotions that come into this for most European composers and obviously for European people at the time. one of them is naturally fear of a different culture that you don't know. Another one that comes along with that fear, though, is fascination. There's a lot of fascination. There's almost like a mystification of these other cultures. There's a fascination with the smells, the spices, the flavors, the music, the colors, all of it. Then there's also a bit of looking down at them because we Europeans are so much better than them naturally, and our music is so much better than them. So we're not actually going to play the music like they play it. We're going to kind of imitate it in our own way. I'm talking from the perspective of a European composer. And those emotions kind of go back and forth in this piece. And I'm just going to leave you with the question of what do you feel is his relationship with it? Is it more going to the realm of the mysticism or the fascination, or into the fear, or in the looking down the nose at Oriental culture? Enjoy.